My final guest tonight is the man who started life as a cartoonist and then turned his humour and imagination to inventing what he calls his things. His rare talent makes him a difficult man to categorise. One admirer called him a fantasticator, another a gothic kinetic Merlin. Ladies and gentlemen, Rowland Emett. Rowland, welcome.
Thank you.
These beautiful, beautiful things, as you call them.
I haven't seen them for months. So
Have you not?
No.
No. Well, these are owned, of course, by a man called Ziff, Arnold Ziff, aren't
Arnold
they,
Ziff.
up in Leeds.
The Merriam Centre in
Merriam
Leeds.
Centre.
It's very kind of them.
Good. Now, let's have a look at this machine, first of all. Now, what is this?
Well, this is a vacuum cleaner, as you may well see, or a carpet sweeper. It has an induction fan here. It has little bellows that produce a sort of anticlimactic sort of suction.
Yes.
A reverse suction, like blow,
Yes.
which works very well. And it's called the Little Dragon. And I think if you see his lugubrious face, you'll see why.
If you have a look down here at the front there, he needs those specs, doesn't he?
He needs those specs. He doesn't have a great deal of success, I must say, with dust, hence the great headlamp and so on. And of course, this is the one that did disgrace himself by eating the entire carpet on that terrible occasion. But we still love him.
It's very beautiful. Let's move on now and look at this other one over here, which I think is one of my very favourite ones, this rocking chair. Now,
yes, yes.
there are several things that, first of all, again, what's the theory behind this?
I've been appalled at the absolute and complete waste of time and energy, people sitting in their rocking chairs and having to rock the damn thing.
Yes.
So I thought we would reverse all that. So I put this rather neat, unobtrusive little hot air engine. It's not steam, it's a hot air engine
Yes.
on the back here. And, well, it literally does it all for you. There's a little reading lamp here.
Now, what about this at the back here? What's this? That looks like a carpet beater.
It is a carpet beater,
Oh.
but it has another function there. It's if the house cat requires to have a little fun on its own, it can sit there. And you'll probably notice the rear lamp at the back
Yes,
here.
the little lamp. I meant to mention that there.
Yes.
What do you want a lamp on?
Well, I felt this was rather necessary. It is to prevent the family dog tripping over this activating wheel on dull evenings.
Yes, I see. What about the slippers at the front? Now, you can make them of any size there, I suppose.
Oh, yes, to suit the occupant, yes.
Yes.
Well, again, here, this is, the dog comes into it again. It's to absolve the family dog from having to fetch slippers and put them there. They're always to hand, as you might say.
Of course, yes. How silly of me to ask. They're lovely, yes. Now, this we've already had a look at,
yes.
but that's very, very pretty. Again, utilising everything you find in the normal
Yes.
household, the breadboard.
You mustn't, I detected a smile. You mustn't laugh at these things at all.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, Beethoven, the young Beethoven, when he strode over to the piano, they all laughed.
Yes.
They were right, he couldn't lift it. Well, it's the same thing here. If Beethoven were, I was going to say alive today, or if this had been there when he was, he would most certainly have written for it.
What are these here?
Little cat bells that join in.
Cat.
They do no harm, and they give a nice little surreptitious tinkle.
Yes, they do. That's lovely. Makes a beautiful noise. Let's look at this one over here now, which is this huge Humbug Major sweet machine, it's called. It's actually, when you look at it, I mean, it's got its own logic, hasn't it? I mean,
I think so, I think so. And you see, if you've got children, it's quite a problem, this lollipop business and sweets and the price they are today.
That's right.
Well, a neat, unobtrusive thing like this in the corner of the kitchen can go away producing them.
Yes.
As it's doing here. Mind you,
right.
it's not really, it's going through the action. We couldn't have it, it would fill the studio in about a couple of hours.
If we had real...
Yes, indeed.
Yes, absolutely.
It's showing you what it can do.
There's the toffee apple thing there.
Toffee apples being immersed. We tried it out with jelly babies. No luck. It wouldn't do those at all.
No. And what about, this thing that interests me here is on top, they seem to have got a bird.
Oh, the
there.
bird. Well, he's not supposed to be a stowaway. That is a kind of exhaust there. Warm air comes up through that funnel, and of course, just the sort of place a bird would pick for a nest.
Absolutely.
If it requires to be indoors in the kitchen, which some birds do.
Yes. All right, well, let's move on now around here to this final exhibit, which is of particular interest to us here.
Well, this comes right home, doesn't it?
The television
Yes.
centre, because this is the very, very first television set, isn't it?
This is early television, pre-Baird.
Pre-Baird.
And I think it's fairly successful in its own right. It has a projection lamp here, which is from an 1850 railway coach, genuine. Here we have the set of antennae here that are, they're really like, what shall I say, decoy ducks. These little bells here are inducing other sounds and influences and impacts and things to come out of the ether, and it gets them, stuffs them in here through the pre-Baird, but rather reminiscent of Baird, disc here.
Right.
And of course, out through the phonograph horn. And
these look like egg whisks.
well, you shouldn't say that. No, really, that is for beating up and grinding down electrons.
Electrons?
Yes.
Ah.
And here, the great thermionic valve here, it only has one, apparently began life as a sort of case of, somebody said stuffed butterfly. They're not stuffed butterflies. There's some still in there, you see, but it doesn't hurt. They work.
No, what about the quality of picture you get here?
Well,
the
quality is splendid, but it seems to have got rather stuck on one picture, which has been analysed, and it appears to be grandfather bullfighting next door's goat. But it is in colour. You've got to settle for that.
It is in colour.
And another thing, I think the best thing of all, I mean, who wants to look at a television set apart from the picture? I mean, the thing itself, it's nothing, is it?
No.
Nothing. Well, look at that.
Even
if it didn't work, you could look at it.
That is a thing of joy. It's an absolute wonder. I think we need a little bit more technical explanation on this. And I wonder, Professor Unwin, sir, would you come across here?
No, this is going
I know that this particularly fascinates you.
Yes.
Would you sort of explain what you make of this? For instance, these here, the top here, what would
These are the top. These are not DNA molecules, which is show the genetic fundamental produced for the human species.
Yeah.
As Rowland said, it is a quarter wavelength, rotated Huffalo that give forth exploding most to the half CMV squared thing. But I heard you say that was a notating egg whisker.
That's right, this one down here.
No, deep folly.
Deep folly.
No. That is really, it gets the electrons in a great mess hole, so that when they get up that great velocity speed of there, the plasma through there's a very water-cool reaction through a great exploding mode. But this is the beauty fold, and I can't find words to express what is a through-dimensional golden tenderhook through the human being, because it goes back to John Logie Baird, who's got his first inspirail for the television holes we know in our own eye folder. Oh, yeah. 30 lines per second, which is great too, as you know.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. Now, about the hormone.
Yeah, yes.
The hormone?
Yes.
Exponential through.
Yes.
Right? Now, instead of a sound coagulate there with smoke and get the wax in your own eardrum, so you get that symmetrical, lovely picture through dimensional.
Of course.
Aspect ratio through.
Yes.
So, as I say, the inspirail is a deep, it's possible joy for the future, both televisual holes and for the whole world, as far as you can stretch it, the South Pole.
Could you explain that better, Rowland?
I couldn't put it better myself. It explains everything. What did you say?
Let's walk across here.
Basically, the 25.
They are very, very beautiful. They really are. Yeah. And the nice thing about them, you see, they make you smile. And you've had practical proof, haven't you, of how people respond to them? Because there's one in Basildon. Tell us about that.
The one in Basildon, that's a permanent thing.
Yes.
It's about 25 feet high, and it's based on the owl and the pussycat in their beautiful pea green boat. And they have a little orchestra of 6 porcelain pussycats that play, and they have their own conductor and so on. It's that kind of thing. Doesn't mean any harm. And what has astounded us all is that Basildon, vandalism is not unknown in Basildon. Nothing has been touched on this thing. It's in the open, it can be got at by anybody. We've never had anything so much as a cigarette packet thrown in the little lake in which it sits, but what we have thrown in to date, since I think it's August the 4th, or thereabouts, when it was erected, we have had £1,800 in pennies, tuppences and 5-penny pieces thrown in by children. All the time they have to rake them out every day, and it seems to me some kind of, I don't know, some tribute. They identify with it. They want to belong to it.
Yes.
Isn't that nice?
Yes. Do you want to belong to that world? I mean, is that why you create these things? Is that your...
Yes.
It is?
Yes. I think technology has all gone the wrong way. This is my sort of counter-technology. And there's another thing, it's serious, really, because oil and electricity and all this sort of thing, and even solar power, I mean, that's going to fail. I mean, look at the for goodness sake, look at the sun last Tuesday. It went right in and stayed in all day.
It did.
Well, you can't base things on that.
You can't.
Now, one day, all this is going to come to a finish. And then, this is where I shall come into my own with these things. Have you ever thought of the potential kinetic energy that can be stored up in, say, a couple of yards of knicker elastic?
I didn't.
We use a lot of that. And a string, semi-activated string.
Yes.
You'd be surprised what you could do. And my things are all working on these kind of principles. And I'm sure that people will take to these things and see that I was right. They laugh at them now. Some people laugh at them. You were beginning to laugh at one.
No, I smile with pleasure. I smile with pleasure.
But I'm sure I shall come into my own and be vindicated one day.
You're buying up all the knicker elastic, are you, around at present?
Quietly laying in all that, yes.
When do you get the, well, first of all, where do you get the inspiration from for one of these beautiful
Now, this is rather funny because Professor Unwin here works on the same principle. He says he gets a little picture. Now, this is true. I get a little picture about 2 inches by 4, just about there, about 6 inches in front. And usually when I'm having the first and preliminary conference or talks, if you like, with a prospective sponsor, they want something, this little picture begins to form. And I know after about 20 minutes that this is the sort of thing that I shall build. I discard it, and then I spend a fortnight doing real Edison inventing. You know, I get down to everything, marvelous things. I have to wipe them all out, and I come back to that first thing. This is the nearest thing, I think, to what one could call inspiration. It comes from nowhere, but it's there. And it's not in color, it's monochrome. It comes in a sort of elephant's breath gray, you know, that sort of shade. But I put the color in later, and all I have to do is to copy that and lay it out. And after about a year, I've made it work with the help of a little team of dedicated madmen and so on that I have on hand. And it, you know, like
well, I mean, you see, of course, there's a lot of craftsmanship in that work there. And I suppose the old cliche saying is nowadays, you know, all the craftsmen have gone in Britain.
I've got them all.
You've got them all,
yes,
have you?
All 6 of them, yes. Yes.
Now, you, of course, you're immensely famous and renowned abroad as well, in America.
It's a funny thing that these are the only set of machines, the only collection in England.
Really?
That have been lent, you know, by the, as you said, by the Merriam Center, kindly. Everything else has been bought up by America. But the funny thing is, they all are science museums where I am treated seriously. No laughing there. This is science. And the latest one that I was talking to you about, well, the latest one in America was the one for the Smithsonian.
That's right.
Michael Collins, the astronaut, the one who kept the tramcar going around the moon while they came down, you know, and came up again. He became the director of the Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum in Washington. And he commissioned this. That came about. Do you remember the lunar cycle that you had here some years ago?
That's right, you were on the show.
Well, we lent it to him. He wanted something there. We lent it to him for 6 months. And it went to Washington there. And after 6 months, he said, may we keep it a little longer? And in the end, they kept it 2 years. We finally had to have it back because it was commissioned and sold after that in England. And we had a pathetic letter from him saying, I can't bear to go into the gallery now. Everywhere I go, I hear nothing but, where is it? Where is it? We must have one of our own.
Really?
And they managed to get a sponsor. Of course, they can't buy anything. It's a federal business, and they're not allowed to spend public money. Everything has to be donated. Anyway, they found a sponsor who put up the money, and they commissioned this from me. And so that's how that came about. And it now has its own gallery, and it's there forever. And the latest thing is we heard from them recently that they said, we think you would like to know that we've had bronze signs made, and one stands right at the entrance, at the top of the steps you saw on that clip where the museum opens, and right the way through, up to your gallery. And they said, all it says on it is, to the Pussy Willow. And that's in this great science museum.
We've got it actually. We've got the VT actually here, the clip. Let's have a look at what you're talking about in the few minutes we've got left. Coming up now, Martin Bell reporting.
The museum is a record of man's achievements since he first got off the ground. But now, among the planes, the rockets and the spacecraft, there's a new and strange invention taking its place, a thing of entirely British design and construction. It's called the spaceship Pussy Willow, and it undulates in all directions to the sound of harpsichord music. The spaceship is a sort of magic carpet with strings attached. And not only strings, but lampshades and pulleys and levers and wheels and hinges and pedals and wires and shuttlecocks and whatever else the inventor Rowland Emett happened to think of. The command module is also the hospitality room where visitors from outer space are to be entertained, and it's home for the Astro Cat. A cat always lands on its feet and is therefore carried to establish which way up gravity is. Is it serious? Of course it's serious. All spacecraft have to have a mission, and this one's is to civilize space travel. Mr. Emmett's creation may never get airborne, still less fly through space, as some of its more functional companion pieces in this museum once did. But it will be a permanent exhibit here and give the place what it needs, a flight of fancy.
Kelly, what about you and inventions? Are you inventive at all, or do you have anything about?
Well, certainly, I'm fascinated by it. I'm particularly fascinated by inspiration in inventions. I remember I read an article once how Galileo came up with the concept of the clock, was he saw a rope swinging in a bell tower, and he timed it with his heartbeat, and that somehow gave him an inspiration. And then people see him on the street. They say, "Hey, Galileo, what time is it?" "About 2:30. "Well, don't go by me now. I just had sex and I'm a little fast." Had to have some sort of...
That's silly. Anyway, that's smashing. So you've got a new machine in the pipeline, haven't you? Can you just tell us a little briefly about it? What it is?
It's so terribly hush-hush, but I can tell you a little. Yes, unfortunately, I'm going to take the game of golf apart.
Not unfortunately. You go ahead, go for your life.
Well, this is the Fairway Birdie self-golfing golf machine, and it can be sent out to do it all for you, and you can stay at the 19th, or you can take the 19th with you, which this does.
Really?
And that is just, well, it's got just beyond the little monochrome picture stage. I'm filling in the bits of colour in my mind at the moment. We've really just started. This is, I think it's going to be well, of course, what I think doesn't matter, it's what other people think when they see it, but personally I think it's going to be the best.
You do?
The last one always should be, but you know.
The last one?
I mean the latest.
The latest?
Oh, there's no last.
Not the last.
No last, no.
Spread joy for many, many more years to come. Rowland Emett, thank you very much indeed. Rowland Emett. We're going to close tonight with another look at Rowland's marvellous machines. There they go, in action, or you can hear them in the background there. From all of us here, from Kelly Monteith, from Sir Stanley O'Minott and Rowland Emett, a very good night. Reminder that my next show's on Wednesday, as I say, from all of us here, and my thanks to my guests. Good night.